Today we're joined by Dr. Terry Aselage and Dr. Chris Richardson. Gentlemen, thanks for being with us. Dr. Aselage, we'll start with you. You are the Meetings Committee Chair, and the committee has enormous responsibility within the society. Let's start with your role specifically in the technical sessions. How does the Meetings Committee help shape the technical program?
Well, thanks, Chris. As you say, the Meetings Committee has a really important role for MRS and really tied to the MRS brand, and that's largely because MRS is known for running very high quality meetings that are very well run, and so the Meetings Committee is responsible for making sure that's sustained. In terms of the technical content of the meeting, there are a couple of different things that come to bear on that. Each of the meetings in the spring and fall has meeting chairs that are picked by the presidential line, and they work with the Program Development Subcommittee, which is a subcommittee of the Meetings Committee, to put together the technical program. Meetings Committee chairs largely are autonomous in doing that. The Program Development Subcommittee is there to help ensure that the MRS quality and other metrics like diversity and those sorts of things are maintained. And so the content is determined by those two organizations. We also have a meetings assessment subcommittee that evaluates the quality of the meeting and for improvements. So that's the way the content of the meetings has been traditionally been captured. I did want to say that we also try to be responsive to member needs. And results of surveys of the members have highlighted a couple things for meetings. One is that the spring meeting and the fall meeting have become an awful lot alike in the members' minds. And so there's a task force now that involves myself and Meetings Committee members and some board members trying to figure out how we're going to differentiate between the spring and the fall meetings. And the other thing we're trying to do is change the governance models so that we can introduce exciting new topics in a more responsive and rapid fashion. And so we're trying things like we'll talk about with the quantum materials and a few other things that will enable us to be more nimble in our meetings content.
You provided the perfect segue. At this meeting and the upcoming spring meeting in Phoenix, part of the program involves the developing field of quantum materials. So how is MRS meeting programming helping to define quantum materials?
So as I mentioned, there is an intent to try some experiments around not only quantum materials but a few other topics as well, to see what we can do to change the format of some of the symposia that we hold. So at the fall meeting, Chris will tell you in a moment about the special session on the panel session on quantum materials. And we're trying things at the spring meeting. We're going to have a special invited session and focus on some industrial interest in quantum materials. So we are sort of trying some experiments to see how we can improve the governance model a little bit more top-down in some cases, beyond the normal member-driven symposium submission process.
Now, Dr. Richardson, about this time, you're probably wondering, has he forgotten about me? We haven't. You're not just here for moral support. I do have some questions. We'll turn to the quantum materials special session at the meeting. Tell us about that format at this session, and what will attendees of this session come away with?
So the quantum materials panel is really something that we brought out of our symposium, focused on quantum information and emerging materials in quantum information science. And what we've done is trying to figure out how can we actually have broader impact through the whole conference. And so with interaction with MRS, we actually developed this extra panel in addition to our technical sessions to have a discussion in terms of how can the materials community really get involved in quantum materials, and more specifically, materials focused on quantum information science.
Now, the description of the special session, it asks two questions. You said they'll be spending 90 minutes or so with panelists discussing the very topics, but let's give a preview. The two questions. First, why is there so much interest in quantum materials research today?
So quantum materials itself is a rather broad topic.
Yeah.
It's been going on for a number of years. A lot of really excellent work in topological materials, graphene, and quantum information is another field that's evolving. This is the thought of quantum computing, quantum networking. A lot of industry is actually being invested in this technology area because it can revolutionize computing as we know it today. Materials has a really critical role in this community in quantum information. And so the question is, how can this field of quantum materials and material science in general influence the technology of quantum information and quantum technology devices?
Now, this is the $64,000 question. what are quantum materials anyway?
So we're actually not trying to address all of quantum materials.
Okay.
We're really focused in those materials that have an impact in quantum information devices. And so it is a subset of quantum materials which has to do with emerging quantum phenomena based upon the materials that they are made. And we're looking at how can the material properties and materials be engineered to actually influence information stored in quantum states that are contained within those materials. So it's a very tight coupling between material synthesis and the function of the technology that could really revolutionize computing as we know it.
Dr. Aselage, Dr. Richardson, thanks so much for your time. It was great to meet you guys.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.